really need to be held accountable. They need to know that it really is critically important that disabled people are involved in the discussions that are going to go on. The changes in our cities as a result of COVID, I think, is something that people are beginning to think about more now, but they're going to be dramatic changes, I believe, going on. Like in the Washington, D.C. area, we used to have 3,000 taxi cabs a day on the street. Right now, in September, we have about 300. So, and I know this is happening everywhere. If urban areas become more depopulated, services that have been available for us will also change. The world of work is going to change. And I think the most important thing is that we not be afraid of the change,
Yeah.
but that we are a part of the change,
And then we lead the change.
that we're a leader in the change, that we lead together. Because I think that's really important, that we need to be leading together.
And so what is the call to action? Because a lot of people want to understand how to build back better. They want to understand what inclusive and accessible cities should look like. What kind of call to action do you have for?
Well, I think, you know, for me, my call to action is the disability community and leadership need to be working together. And the disability leadership, and I include young people, but I also think it's very important that we are looking not just at young people. And the reason I'm saying that is I know when I was young and when you were young, we had a lot of energy and drive, but we didn't have the expertise that we have now. You're 42 years old or whatever. 20 years ago, what did you know about urban planning? You knew to speak about the fact that there wasn't a curb cut, there wasn't a this or that. You didn't really know what to do about it. Now I think it's really essential that we are taking our criticisms and really bringing the right people to the table, including us, and us, I mean younger people, but also looking at people in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s and 60s and 70s, all both professionally and personally, who are going to be affected. We need to be smart. Leadership needs to be smart. And we have to demand that they are smart and be inclusive. But I really do think that it's also incumbent upon us, because our community is so diverse, to also be working broadly within the cities. It isn't an either or. We need to be working with the broad spectrum of people who are going to be essential in the redesigning of our cities, to ensure that disability is appropriately integrated.
Fantastic, Judith. Judith, this is going to be a really important time for us to come together, and your insights are going to feed and inspire and push forward. I think a lot of people that take this course.
We need to know the people who are knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And they not only need to be knowledgeable, but I think it's really imperative. And it gets back to a question that you asked me earlier. There needs to be a level of confidence that people have, that we need to push as hard as we can. And that leadership should expect that and welcome it. And the reason I say that is, you know, in many communities, historically and still today, people are afraid, how far do I push? You know, people are afraid of not being invited back to the table. There has to be confidence that people will be invited to the table. People need to bring their knowledge and substance. Obviously, compromise is something that occurs all the time. But I do believe, and I think this is something that, you know, we've seen, you know, for example, with the demonstrations in San Francisco in 1977 around a US law where we were fighting to get regulations signed by the Carter administration. We finally said, we will not compromise any further. And I think our resilience to, in fact, say we will compromise no further, being able to explain what we had done previously, the compromises that we had made,
Yeah.
and why we believe that any further compromises would truly adversely affect the law, that made a difference. So you need to know your principles, you need to know your bottom line, and you need to be respected that what you're saying is something that's valuable.
Fantastic. Well, this has all been very valuable. I hope to inspire people that take this course to understand that there is no future of cities. There's no sustainable future. There's no smart future if we're not included. I think that's what these lived experience modules are going to do for our learning guide. And we're excited that you were able to join us. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. And I do want to say that one of the reasons why I think what you're doing is so important is you started this, or the UN started this project, the world started this work many years ago. But over the next couple of years, the changes that are going to go on in the urban environments, I think are going to be dramatic. And now we need to take the work that you and others have been doing and really put it to the test. Are we really going to ensure that as we're redesigning our cities, that disability and universal design is seen as an essential part?
I have some exciting news for you on
What?
that front. We were invited to present at the G20 summit in Saudi Arabia
Okay.
and propose the world's first accessibility policy for smart cities.
Okay.
All of the technology that's going to be deployed in these smart cities, we're proposing that the G20 adopt kind of a standards for procuring technology within cities that are accessible and meet accessibility criteria.
Is David involved with that at all?
Yes, David and
And Jim?
James Thurston, yeah, from G3ICT.
Yeah.
So we've been working on that front. So I think there's definitely a lot of progress we've made. And I think that, like you said, ultimately we need to have the skill sets and a sophisticated approach to providing solutions, adding value.
You know other disabled people like yourself around the world with your experience?
There are a handful of us, right, that are really looking at the intersection of disability justice and urban development. But it's ultimately a set of life experiences and a range of experiences that allowed me to have this impact that I've had. But I also feel like it doesn't matter that there's few urban planners. What matters is that there are more urban planners with this perspective going forward. And
Who
so,
do and don't have disabilities.
exactly. And so what was exciting was when the pandemic hit, we launched a webinar series specifically with city leaders, and over 2,000 people participated on our inclusive pandemic response with city leaders. And we had the mayor of San Juan.
Yeah, this video.
The webinars?
Obviously they're videoed.
Yeah. But 2,000 people participated in
Where can you see them?
9 weeks. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
I'll put the link on this thing. But the interesting thing of this was that once we had the weekly webinars, people wanted to keep talking. So we organized a WhatsApp group that reached its limit
I know, I've seen them on it.
in a week, right? That there were so many people that they wanted to have regional conversations. So we set up the Latin America group and then the Africa group and the Africa group and Latin America group. We have people in the office of the prime minister and grassroots activists in the same WhatsApp group sharing, articles and
Why
policies.
didn't you tell me any of this during the interview? Okay.
Well,
Did I not ask you the right questions?
it was a short of it, but the exciting thing was that then after that, the World Bank joined our discussion and helped us launch a global survey. So we collected all of these local level experiences. We have over 400 participants in the global survey. And what was interesting is that one of the questions was a trust gap. Do you trust that your city will respond to your needs, of the
What
needs
was the answer?
of people with disabilities or older persons.
What was the answer?
The answer was about 50% said
Oh, really?
that they don't trust. And
I think it would be higher, so that's pretty good.
it was higher in South America. It was, I would say it was a higher not trust. There's a lower level of trust in South America, a little bit of a higher level of trust in Europe and the US.
Uh-huh.
But what's interesting was also the survey led to the launch of recommendations. So we actually launched with city leaders a set of recommendations, not to say the cities should do this, but the ways that we can empower cities to be more responsive to the needs of people with disabilities. Because it also necessitates an enabling environment by the federal government or the national government in coordination with a lot of other actors. So those recommendations were launched as well. So we're
Send me the links. I gotta get off. We
sure.
gotta do another call. Victor,
Yes.
I love you more.
I love you. I love you. Bye, Judy.
So you, okay, we have to keep talking.